Hey everyone, I'm Nate, the lead producer at EE Studios, and today we have a very special panel for our fans to talk about Overclocked Origins and the journey behind the scenes of some of the folks involved with the project. Overclocked is a series made using technology, using a still in development game called Star Citizen, where we basically use the engine and world of the game to create our own custom characters, storylines, and film all the action, which we control using the in-game camera system. Before moving everything to post, where we do all the editing, sound design, coloring, and all that stuff. Overclocked Origins is a live action short film which introduces and explores what some of these characters and world might look like in real life. And we were lucky enough to explore this through a generous donation from one of our fans. The whole film was shot in 2 10-hour days, one at the iconic Vasquez Rocks, made famous in Star Trek, and the other at a state-of-the-art Unreal 3D studio called LA Castle Studios. It was enormously ambitious, and I'm super proud of what we accomplished, especially with what we had. And the film recently had its online premiere on Dust, which is a YouTube channel under the production company Gunpowder and Sky, and one of the best places to find independently produced sci-fi shorts. If you haven't already, you can check out all these projects via the links below. And as always, thanks for watching. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my amazing panel today. We've got Kim. Go ahead and wave, Kim. She's my beautiful wife, and she's also an actress who voices Ava in the Machinima series. We have Pham, who is a model and the lead actress who played Ava in the live-action short. We have Chandni Shah, who is an actress, and she played Jade Starunner in the live-action short. And then we have Jade Starwatcher, who's a super fan of Star Citizen Overclocked, but also the inspiration behind the Jade character in the series. And she's also a real-life scientist, which is pretty cool. Jade is going to be leading our interview today, so I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Nate. So first of all, I should just say that you all did a phenomenal job conveying the roles that a lot of us in the Star Citizen community were very familiar with, having watched the Overclocked Machinima series. And I just think it was amazing. Like my jaw dropped the first time I watched it. I've watched it now 5 times. So as you can tell, I'm a definite fan. But more about you, Kim, can you please tell us about yourself and your background and your journey to get into acting?
Sure. So I'm Kim Ellis. I am actually Nate's wife. I got into acting, gosh, it was way back. So I don't have a background in acting. I was a teacher and a school counselor. And it was just by accident how I got into acting. So I was working as a school counselor all the way in Bakersfield. I was a middle school counselor, and my work visa application wasn't accepted at the time. I don't know if you know much about work visas, but when they receive over a certain amount of work visa applications, they do like a random lottery, like a computerized lottery system. And mine just wasn't selected. And so I was just trying to like find other jobs and trying to figure out how to stay in the country because I didn't want to go back to Korea. And I decided to maintain my student visa. And long story short, I was looking at some classes at UCLA, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's an acting class that I can do. And I remember acting back in high school, and it was so much fun. So I was like, oh, wait, so I can have fun, taking this acting class, and I get to stay in the country and figure out my options. So I just jumped in, obviously with the encouragement of my husband, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And the first class, I fell in love with acting. I'm like, oh my God, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But of course, coming from my, Asian background, acting is not a real job in my family. And so I obviously was very conditioned to think a certain way towards acting. And I just was very scared, but Nate encouraged me, and I haven't looked back since. So that's how I became an actor. And with Overclocked, when Nate having, created the entire series, and he did bounce off a lot of the ideas, we would discuss the characters and the story together. And I was obviously more than happy to, voice Ava. And yeah, voice acting, I don't have a ton of experience with that, but obviously with the Overclock series, I think I've realized that it's something that I really enjoy, and I look forward to doing it more often.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And how about you, Catherine?
Oh, getting into acting, also kind of similar in a way where it's kind of like an accident. I went to school to become a dentist and I finished undergrad. And before I decided to go to grad school, I felt like I wanted to do something in the creative field, but I didn't know what exactly. And I chose to become a dentist because Asian parents want you to become a doctor and everything.
Yep.
But I decided to do modeling, which I got signed, which my husband also named Nate.
I'm also her husband. It's weird.
Yeah. um, he encouraged me to, because I put it off for a while. I was like, oh, I'm not at the body, or like I didn't look a certain way. So I felt like, oh, maybe they're not going to sign me. And he was like, when are you going to do it? So he pushed me and I got signed to the first agency that I actually had a meeting with. And I decided to move down to LA and no plans, just go from there. And then did modeling for a while. And I helped my friend actually with his own audition, and I was helping him read for it. And he was like, you're getting pretty good at reading. You should try doing some acting. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I never really thought of it because I'm kind of the type of person that's actually really afraid to be in front of people and talking, which is so weird that I'm in this like role now. But it made sense at the time. And then I started doing it. And then when Overclocked came up for the audition, I felt like I was so inspired by how much work was put into this. And I don't know, it kind of like reinvigorated what I wanted to do with acting because I kind of wasn't sure. I was like on and off with it. And I was like, I'm not sure if this is for me. But when I did Overclocked, it just, I don't know, re-inspired me.
Oh,
I
that's
think
great.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
it's fun to see Catherine. Obviously, Catherine in real life is very friendly and smiley and bubbly, and you know, and then to see her transition as much as she did into Ava, I think it's very obvious the talent there. So I'm glad we got you, Kat, and I think you did a great job.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, these are great stories. I love hearing this background. And how about you, Chandni?
Um, so I got into acting. It kind of started when I was 13 and I was in the car with my mom on the way home from school. And it was like a radio announcement that was like, do you want to be on a TV show with Selena Gomez or Justin Bieber? And I was like,
Oh my God, I remember
yeah,
those.
I want to be on a TV show with Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber. And I was like, Mom, can I call? I don't have a phone. Like, can you please call them? And then she's like, okay, fine, whatever. Just please stop talking. And I called them and it was like a awful cattle call where you're in a line for like 8 hours and then you go there and then the lady told me that I looked very exotic and I was the star potential and she could make me a star. And then was like, oh, but you have to pay $10,000 for acting classes first because you're a star, but you're not quite a star. And then that became a flop and I didn't touch acting for 5 years because I was like, no way, this will not happen. And then once I got a car, I decided to take an acting class just for fun. And I absolutely loved it. And my parents were not the biggest fan of me pursuing any career involved with acting. So I decided to go to college and I got an acting degree, which was awesome. But then I also got a psych and Spanish degree for them. I was like, here you go. Here's this diploma. Now take it and
Wow.
run. And then I decided to just come to, it was luckily I went to Chapman. So it's close enough where I don't have any LA traffic, but I get to still drive if I want to audition at all. And I started auditioning a lot more my senior year of college. And then I popped out here and I saw the audition for this, and I really love Jade's character because she's kind of awkward and clunky like me. And I connected to it a lot. So that's kind of how I got here.
What's interesting, real quick, what's interesting about Chandni is Chandni, you look so much like the actual character. But you bring, like you said, like a fun, she's more fun. Your version of her is more fun than the Machinima version, which I wrote really serious and sort of almost like Ava. But I wanted to do something different in this where there was more contrast and conflict between the two. And obviously Jade, we don't know this in the live action short, but Jade's actually like a princess. She comes from a very wealthy family, and she's sort of a fish out of water trying to prove something to herself. But Chandni brought, as you could tell naturally from her personality, she brings this sort of fun spirit to the character, which I thought was really cool. And Chandni, you nailed it.
Thanks.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it.
Thank you.
So about characters, Kim, can you please tell us a little bit more about your process getting in the character and performing Overclocked?
Yeah, I just remember just standing in front of Nate's computer and trying to get into character. I think voice acting is more difficult because you don't have that scene partner to, kind of bounce that energy off. And yeah, I remember just staring at like Ava, the Machinima Ava, and just trying to like feel what she's feeling. But I think what did help was because I was so familiar with the story and everything that she had been through, it was fairly easy for me. And also at the time I was going through, like, I had a bunch of health issues at the time. And I think emotionally I was just kind of ready to just like dive into like the deep dark world of Ava. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then things like, when she's running, I would like actually jog on the spot to make it seem like authentic and out of breath. When she's screaming, I literally did scream out loud. So I tried to make it as realistic as possible, and hopefully it came off that way.
It definitely did. I definitely think it did. And how about you, Catherine? What can you tell us about your process?
Oh, I basically binged Overclock, everything about Overclock or anything that has to do with Ava. And I was just putting it on the whole time. And I'm like, okay, be Ava, be Ava. But I also feel like I feel like it's kind of weird to say this because she's kind of like psychotic, but I feel like her personality, like her moodiness and how she does her jokes, like her humor, I relate to it. So it came kind of easy for me, but I don't think I had to be in like on set. I wasn't, I guess, in a dark place the whole time. I think I have this weird ability where I can switch on and off of like how I am normally. And then once the camera's on, I'm like, okay, it's Ava time. Yeah. But I think, yeah, it's just mostly watching and observing like her mannerisms and her type of humor. And that helps me a lot.
Yeah, that definitely came through. Having, been a fan of this series, like watching you play Ava, it really was, watching Ava again, but as an actual like, live action person. And I'm just amazed. I thought you did a phenomenal job. You all did.
Thank you so much.
A caveat real quick, Kat, you're a gamer too, right? Or somewhat of a gamer, right? So that was something I didn't know when I was casting. And I thought it probably helped to some degree that for you to even sit and watch Machinima. A lot of people who aren't familiar with what that is, they might have a hard time making it through because it is very different.
Yeah.
But the fact you did that's badass.
I think it's because I'm like a super weeb. So like I watch anime all the time. So to me, it just felt like anime,
Yeah.
But it was, I don't know. I felt like I had so much fun on set, and yeah, I don't know. I was really nervous because this was my first time being a lead role, and I didn't want to disappoint like the fans, and it did make me nervous because I was like, I need to live up to like this expectation of like Ava had to be like perfect, you know, because Ava was already like this character that you built, and I was just like, oh my God, has to be perfection. But I'm glad that the fans loved our or my interpretation of Ava.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another challenge is that we didn't have all the time in the world to shoot this. So it's like, you know, we had essentially 10-hour days, 2 10-hour days, which really boils down to about 8 hours of filming because you got to set up and eat lunch and all that stuff, which is not a lot of time, especially with Overclocked. You're trying to like somewhat pay tribute to this massive sci-fi thing. And so I think with the time we had, all of you guys, all the actors, and we were on a green screen stage for the second day. So you're literally floating in a green room with nothing to reference. So that's very challenging. And none of us had shot on that before. I think you guys, whatever you did, you guys got zoned in to where we needed you really well. And we did our rehearsals and stuff, and you guys started to find it there. But I don't know what you did, but you guys were really good and you locked it in. So.
Yeah, I just want to add, so I was part of the casting process for the live action. And I mean, when we saw Kat and Chandni's tapes, I mean, it's like we knew. It's like the universe knew, like they brought them to us.
I was like, yeah, there they are.
That is amazing. So Chandni, I saw a still that Nate sent me of you in the cockpit for one of the scenes. And I remember, then I'm like, oh my God, she looks just like Jade. Like, anyway,
That's
what you can tell us about your process in getting into the Jade character.
I would say I think the rehearsals really helped me. There were moments, so say if because when we were in maybe the green screen room or taking a break or doing another shot, sometimes I would literally just look in Catherine's eyes and be like, okay, how do I feel about you? How do I feel about this right now? And then that would kind of solve a lot of my problems if I ever got in my head. But my overall process, I just try and think I try and kind of figure out as much backstory as possible. Who am I? Where am I? How does the weather feel? How does Jade feel about this weather? Is it hot? Is it cold? Just my surroundings. And I think it was really cool to have I feel a lot of aspects of Jade's life are in my life. So I just try and think as much as possible. When have I felt that, for example, my parents maybe didn't want me to do acting as much, and while I may not have Jade's exact background, I'm not particularly a princess. Maybe one day. I felt a lot of that pressure, and I just really try to hone in on that. But it was really easy working with Catherine too. It made every scene very fun. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
And Chandni brought fun to set. Like she was a reminder for me that we're having fun, right? Because it can be a lot of stress and there's a lot of pressure, especially on a small crew where the director is all like, I'm also responsible to sort of keep things running. We didn't have an AD. And so I look at Chandni and she's walking around with her like bruised eye makeup,
Oh, that was
doing
so
like dances and stuff. Like, okay, yeah, this is why we're here. We're having fun. At the end of the day, this is fun.
I think most of the time we were just like goofing off.
Yeah.
But it was really fun.
That's amazing to hear because watching the scenes, you totally replicated the intensity of the scene where, Jade, you're leaving, Mordor and like that scene, your faces are so intense and it really conveyed the seriousness of it. So hearing that you were all like having fun on set and then you could just drop right into that intensity, it's true talent. So I'm just saying that as a fan, you did a great job.
Thank you.
And while we were shooting that stuff, that's Vasquez Rocks and it's a park, right? So people are allowed to walk in and we're not allowed to tell people that we were specifically told with permitting and stuff, we can't tell people to go away. because it's a park, it's public, you know. So while they're standing there having that moment, there's like tourists walking around looking at us. Like I remember Max, who plays the dad, he had his eye blown out with the makeup, but like his eye blown out. He's like sitting under a tent eating a sandwich. And these Chinese tourists come over and they all want to get a picture with him because they think he's some famous actor. And Max is a fantastic actor. He's been around. So he's sitting there with his blown out eye socket, getting pictures with these Chinese tourists.
Casual.
As Catherine and Chandni are overdoing the serious scene, you know, while these little kids are in the background climbing up these rocks, we're trying to frame them out, you know. So there's all these things going on while you're trying to do this thing. So you guys, yeah, to stay focused and stay so serious is really, I don't know how you do it.
I remember, just to jump in, I remember one of the scenes where, yeah, right before Jade leaves, and it was just like a really powerful moment between you two. And I started tearing up. Like I was there with you guys. I'm just like, okay. Like it was really powerful.
Yeah, our first AC started losing focus, and I look up and he's looking at Jade and Kat, or he's looking at Chandni and Kat performing, and I'm like, yo, focus.
Oh my God. Oh.
So.
It's your eyes, Kat. Your eyes, just do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'm like, yeah, that hella reminds me of when we did the exercise before we actually did the scenes where we like looked into each other's eyes. I felt like that. It was like crazy powerful that somehow made us get into it real quick.
Yeah, so I think the night before or 2 nights before the shoot, we did our rehearsals, and yeah, we had an exercise where Chandni and Kat stood literally face to face, didn't worry about blocking, didn't worry about anything else other than just, and then I had them run through these lines where I wrote a bunch of lines from the first person of the character they were playing, and I had them repeat them 3 times or something while looking in each other's eyes. And I think that, like what you're talking about, Kat, I think that really helped you guys ground yourselves and then connect with each other. That seemed to really work. So any filmmakers out there trying to get their actors to connect with the character and each other, that's a great thing.
Kind of just helps let all of your pre-shaping go away and just feel and let your impulses just come through. I think that was really helpful.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, going back to what Kim said when she like teared up, I was like, oh my God, we did it, guys. I was so excited when she told me that. I was like, oh my God, I moved you.
Yeah, it really was. It was a very moving, it was a touching moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally feel that. So do you have any stories or words of wisdom for people interested in pursuing a career in the film and television industry? Well, I'll start with you, Kim.
Gosh, you know, and this is something that I try to remind myself too all the time, is just to have fun. I think sometimes, you know, we just get caught up with, you know, the auditioning, and auditions can be brutal, you know, rejections can be brutal, especially if it's something that you really wanted, or you were so close, like you're right at the end and then you get dropped and things like that. And when you just get lost in the business side of things, it's just really hard. And so I think during those times, it's good to just kind of take a step back and remind yourself why you're doing it, you know, and just to have fun with it. That's all I got to say.
Sounds like great advice. And how about you, Catherine?
I would say have grace with yourself. I think it's like adding on to what Kim said. It's very easy to get discouraged when you're constantly getting like rejected, but I think you have to understand that it comes with the job. It's not that you weren't great for that part. It's just there was somebody who was exactly what they thought of, and it wasn't that you were bad at it or anything like that. But I think I go through like a roller coaster of emotions like every other month where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm doing so great. And the other's like, why doesn't anybody want me? But it's, yeah. So I think as long as you understand that, then it'll be okay.
Yeah.
To quickly add on to that, so I've been on the other side of casting now, helping to produce, helping Nate with his projects. So I really get to see like what happens on the casting side. And God, it's been such a great learning experience too. And it's sometimes it's really, you can be so talented, but you just don't have the right look, or you're not the right age. It can be little things like that, and so you just really cannot take it personally. So yeah, just being on the casting side of things, I've really learned as an actor not to take it personally at all. Yeah.
And how about you, Chandni?
Yeah, I think the same with that. And I still work on this myself, but not taking it personally and just knowing that there are things with your career you can always control, and that can be work ethic and the craft itself, and really working on yourself and your mental health and all of that, because that affects the work you put out. And then there's stuff that you can't control, and remembering that once that tape goes away, or whatever it may be, it is out of your hands, and then just allow the fun to come back in of, oh, I just did a tape, that was fun, why am I doing this? And then the second thing that's helped me honestly is just watching movies and TV shows, and watching not just good ones but also bad ones, because I feel I can get a lot of education and just understanding even genres that maybe I'm not the biggest fan of, or they're more tedious to watch for me. I've learned so much just about the human brain and mind, and something as simple as recounting a story in a scene. It might seem so simple, but when you're watching people do it, and it's like, why am I so captivated by the seemingly boring moment? And kind of thinking about that, and watching yourself as an almost out of body experience throughout the day. I think those things recently have helped me enjoy this craft more. It's made it fascinating.
So you have a degree in psychology. Do you think that has helped you in terms of, your process when you're analyzing these scenes?
Yes and no. I think it's helped me. What I love about it is whenever I go into a character, no matter who it is, I try not to judge it at all. I try not to think, oh, this person's mean, because that person doesn't think they're mean, so I shouldn't think I'm mean while I'm playing her. And so psychology has really helped me to understand why am I saying this? Why am I feeling this? Why do I want this from another person? On the other hand, sometimes you just gotta take all of that psychology, and then the second you go into the scene, throw it out the window, and just take because sometimes I'm thinking about the psychology of it, but not what the other person is giving me. So finding that balance has been really interesting this past year, having just graduated. But I think there's some pros I've gotten from psychology for sure.
Well, congratulations on graduating, and wow, like I'm just amazed at the job that you've all done with this, and I'm definitely going to follow more of your work now. Having been exposed to you through Overclocked, I think a lot of our audience should also do the same. Well, that's about it for me, Nate.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I just want to caveat something that you guys all were talking about. It reminds me of something Kim brought up, and how as an actor, you're not supposed to judge your character. Like if whoever you're playing, oh, she's the crazy psycho bitch or whatever, Kim would say, well, she doesn't think she's a crazy psycho bitch. So I thought that was interesting. You really sort of learn to connect with humanity by being an actor. I think there's something really deep about that. I don't think people understand how deep acting can be and how difficult and revealing it can be.
Yeah, I remember I was in an Uber once, and I was just talking to the driver. So, what do you do? Oh, I'm doing some acting. It's like, oh, acting's easy. I'm just thinking, oh, what? No, acting is not easy at all. I mean, you are using your whole body, and when you, for example, like when you do really intense roles, you would have to give yourself time to recover from that, because in a way you're traumatizing your psyche and your body. You hear about actors, who did like intense roles, like the Joker, for example, and he had to take like months off, after his shoot, things like that. And then like I think most people, when they look at actors, they see the 0.01% of the actors, or like the A-listers, right? Who get paid millions. But the majority of us, we're all grinding and just hustling every day, submitting and auditioning, the self-tapes, driving all over town. The headshots are expensive, and then we have to spend extra money on classes, and it's a whole thing. And then a lot of us, we have like side gigs, maybe more than one, to support ourselves. So acting is not easy.
I never thought acting was easy. Just so you know, like I minored in music, and any creative art, to do it professionally is not easy, and it's such a misunderstood thing for a lot of people, because like you said, they see the top 0.1%, but they don't see everybody else out there that has a side hustle or two to be able to pursue their art.
Yeah, and our society doesn't put art first. So I always have a huge amount of respect for people like you guys who, you could go do other things. You have degrees, you have master's degrees, you have lots of different talents, but you're here pursuing your passion. It's a passion, it's a labor of love. I know that because I'm doing the same thing. And I have a very different background too. So it's like there's something really special when we finally get together and do what we love. It is a celebration. And I remind myself on set that this is why we're here. This is what it's all about for us.
And just being able to create and collaborate with
Yeah.
like-minded individuals. I mean, the past few projects we've done, Nate, we've met so many great
I
people.
know.
I mean, Chandni and Catherine included too, but yeah, we're so blessed to have met such great people. And I can't wait to work with you guys again.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up sort of the questions that we had. Does anyone want to chime in with anything else about anything at all that came to mind, or they want to close out with?
I think I would just like to thank the fans for like their support on Overclock itself. And I know Nate, I feel like everyone on the crew like put in so much work, and I'm glad that it translated well and the fans received it and they loved it. And I'm just very proud of our project. Everyone worked so hard on it, and yeah, it's lots of passion.
Yeah, I agree. I think the turnaround time was very impressive, and people were doing a lot of different jobs in that short time. And I was very impressed by just how it came together. And yeah, every time I see anything overclocked in my camera roll lately, I've just kind of had a smile on my face. So
Thank you.
Well, you've brought a smile to a lot of people who are into Overclocked and in the Star Citizen community space. I know that for a fact. A lot of the people I've shared the video with have just been like, this is amazing. This is next level. So you should all be extremely proud of yourselves.
Thank you. I think one of our goals is to really make Overclocked into like a live action series, hopefully, and get it picked up. That's like the ultimate goal. And just really explore like each character and just and the story.
Yeah, that's sort of like my long-term goal. My dream would be, I have other projects in the mix right now that could eventually lead to something like that if all goes well, but it takes a lot of time and obviously takes a lot more money. But that would be the dream, is to really bring Overclocked to a level like like a Netflix series type of level. That would be really cool, like a really raunchy, raw sci-fi series that is unlike anything we've ever seen, and as far as I can tell. So
I've
yeah.
got goosebumps just imagining that coming
Yeah.
to reality.
Well, Jay, do you have anything you want to close out with?
Not really. I think we've covered a lot here.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Time flies. Honestly, I could dive way deep into all these topics, and I'm sure you guys could too. But I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to be here to do this, to put yourselves out there, because look what happens when you do that. Kim, my awesome wife, for always supporting and being behind me in all these crazy adventures. Kat and Chandni for just being so inspiring just by being yourselves. Keep doing what you're doing. And Jade, you're like the rock of this whole thing. You like represent the fan base, and also you're an artist in your own right. So I think together we sort of are like a microcosm of all that's good and right with this whole thing. So thank you so much for being here, and keep kicking ass.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Anthony.